In today's video, we're playing catch up with Masters of the Universe Origins. We're going to start by looking at 4 figures from the Cartoon Collection, including Teela, Trapjaw, Mer-Man, and Stratos. And then we are going to end things off by looking at the newest Mattel Creations exclusive, Extendar. It's Saturday, time to open up some toys. Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan. Welcome back to my channel and another Saturday where we're going to review a whole bunch of figures in one go. Man, there has been just so much Masters of the Universe lately. It's been kind of nuts. I mean, I love it. Obviously, this is my favorite brand, my favorite toy line to collect, but I just feel like I cannot keep up with it. I've got more than just these that I'm like stacking up in my studio that hopefully I'll get to open up and talk about eventually, but that's future Dan's problem. Today, it's all about the Cartoon Collection. Now, I've actually been sitting on a few of these for a while in Teela and Trapjaw, but I just got the Mer-Man and Stratos to go with those and figured this would be a great time to dive in and just look at all 4 of the figures from the Cartoon Collection that have come out recently. So, without further ado, let's jump right in and check them out. All right, so we got Stratos, Mer-Man, Teela, and Trapjaw here from the Cartoon Collection. Of course, these come in those new Cartoon Collection style card backs there, which I actually really love these. The colors are awesome with that spacey background. Castle Grayskull behind them, kind of in an angle very similar to what we see in the Filmation series with the transformation scene and everything. And then each of the blister bubbles also have the Cartoon Collection sticker on the front that is done with an homage to Filmation with all those colors there. So very cool looking stuff. You can also see behind the figures in the blister bubbles there is a mini comic. Mer-Man, man, I'm so excited about this one. This is the one I'm most excited about out of this batch. I think he looks awesome. So very, very cool card backs here. And then on the back side, of course, we've got a cross cell that shows all 4 of these particular characters. You get a little action feature call out, which basically just says twist into powerful battle positions. That just means he's articulated. But also he includes the Pearl of Power. It's one of those Filmation artifacts, comes straight out of the series. And then at the top here, we've got some beautiful artwork that says, as seen on City Beneath the Sea. I love that they're calling out specific Filmation episodes that these artifacts are from here. Really, really gorgeous stuff up there. Stratos' packaging has equally beautiful artwork there. You can see him defending Avion as seen on Reign of the Monster, and he is holding the Staff of Avion, which does come with this particular figure. It's the Filmation version of the Staff of Avion. As some of you probably know, the mini comic version has a completely different look, so pretty cool we're getting that Filmation one with the figure here. The back of Teela's packaging lets us know that she includes a training robot, which is very cool. And then we've got this gorgeous artwork at the top, as seen on Pawns of the Game Master. You can see her with the training robot. You can see He-Man watching on in the background. Just absolutely gorgeous. Love this artwork. And finally, with Trapjaw, as seen on Double Edged Sword, we got Mer-Man in the background, and we've got Trapjaw munching on some Eternium, which, as you can see down here next to the cross-cell, he does include an Eternium rock. So really, really awesome stuff. These guys look fantastic, bright, colorful. Love those card backs. But why don't we go ahead and rip these open and get a closer look at the figures within. All right, let's kick things off with Teela here. And of course, we'll just bring in the tape measure to show that she does stand right at that 5.5-inch mark as we would expect. So a lot of this is very similar to what you would expect from Origins, but there's a lot of new stuff going on here too. The legs do have the same Origins feel, those kind of updated female knees that we've had for a couple years now. But the whole bodice, the upper body part there, is newly sculpted to match Teela's outfit in the Filmation series. I actually really like this gold. It's like molded in a gold, like really pliable plastic. Like, look at this. It's like basically rubbery, which I was kind of surprised by. There's not a lot of this type of material in this line. So it's like a very rubbery material that they put on just over a white painted body there. And then you got the white on the bracers. Really nice matching gold on the wraps on her biceps. But what I really like on this one is the face. I think that is a gorgeous face. I mean, it really does capture the look of this character from the Filmation animated series, I think. It might be the best that we've had yet as far as a Filmation Teela goes, and we'll get more into that when we do our comparison time in just a bit. Now, articulation still functions the same on these Filmation style characters there, so you know what you're getting. It is still all the same modular body, so the head is interchangeable. She can come apart at the waist, so worth noting that that rubbery part of the outfit hangs down. I would be careful. You definitely don't want to rip or tear this piece right here, so be careful when you're separating her there. And the wrists should still come out of socket here, just like that. We should still be able to pull the arms out of socket like that. So it's all the same modular pieces that we've come to expect. So we got a few accessories with Teela here. First of all, we've got her Filmation style sword, which is pretty cool. It's molded in like this silvery plastic. Like it's got a bit of that marbly look to it. I will say the sword is very soft and gummy, like more so than we typically see with the Origins weapons. Like look at the tip of this thing. It is like so bendy. Thankfully, like it's straight. It's not warped or anything out of the package. It's just a lot softer than we typically have for Origins figures. Now, she does also come with a shield. This is a hard plastic, so different from the sword. And it just has a handle on the other side that will fit good on either one of her gripping hands. So that way we can arm up our captain of the guard ready for battle. And that other accessory, of course, is that Filmation specific training robot, which this would have been really cool if we got like a flight stand or something. So like we can actually have it like hovering with her. Otherwise it just kind of lays on the ground. Like it's a cool inclusion. There's just literally nothing you can do with this. There's not even a hole in the bottom or anything like that. It's just molded in that same kind of silver marbly look as the sword, though this is a much more sturdy plastic. I kind of wish the sword was made out of this material. So no extra paint deck or anything like that. It's cool. You just can't do anything with it. I guess you can throw it at her like that. Alright guys, it's comparison time! I want to do a couple things with Teela here, because this is not the first time we've had Filmation Teela made as an action figure. The first one I'm bringing in over here is the one that Super 7 made in their Neo Vintage line. So, same 5.5 scale, though it's more articulated like the vintage action figures, no modular parts, but this is the Teela that they made. I do think this new Origins one has a prettier look in the face specifically, but it's really interesting looking at those two side by side. But of course, Mattel also did a Filmation style Teela back in the MOTU Classics era as part of Club Grayskull, which is what they called their Filmation figures. And so she's more in that 7-inch scale, and there she is. And I do still feel like the Origins one might be the best representation of Filmation Teela so far, but I suppose that is up to you yourself. It's in the eye of the beholder, right? But it's a really nice figure. It's a great new Teela action figure, especially if you're a fan of the Filmation series. So next up, we've got Trapjaw in the Cartoon Collection, so inspired by his Filmation appearance. He is 6 inches tall, which is still in that 5.5 scale, but the male figures with their straight legs do stand more at that 6-inch scale. This is also a really nice representation of the character. I mean, it looks like Trapjaw, but it is going for that more cartoony look, and I think they did a good job of capturing that specifically in the face there. One thing I want to point out, very interesting, the jaw does not move on this one. It is stuck in place. And I guess that's just because they're going for a very specific look, like from the cartoon. but a trap jaw figure that doesn't have a moving jaw just feels kind of weird to me. I'm just saying. You can see a lot of the details are a lot smoothed out on this, of course, like the belt there and all that to match the way he looked in Filmation. So the legs there, nice and bright and colorful, but they are more Filmation accurate, which is very cool. But that does bring me to his robotic arm over here, because I feel like this is one of the areas where every time we've gotten a Filmation trap jaw, it really hasn't been done right. Because this arm is very long and has an elbow bend, but if you watch Filmation, like especially when he's got this gun here, it's really short. Like, it really shouldn't have a bend in it, and the cannon should be like all the way up here. It should be a much shorter arm. So I don't know if this was added just for like action figure aesthetics. That's why they decided to keep the elbow bend there instead of giving us something a little bit more accurate to the cartoon. I'm not sure. Maybe this is something more preferable for action figure posers, collectors. I guess you guys can let me know your thoughts on that. But the other thing that's interesting is we only get 2 accessories. We get the blaster and we get the hook. So no claw, which we typically see on Trapjaw action figures. I know this is inspired by the animation, but come on, it would have been cool to get at least a 3rd attachment, and you guys could have even got wacky with it and given us something like the Fly Swatter, some of those Filmation exclusive accessories. So I'm a bit disappointed in the overall accessories as far as Trapjaw goes. Now, I will say it works just like you expect. You can just put the hook in its place if you want to, or you can take that out and put that gun back in there. It's very similar to our Origins version. It's just molded in a pinkish red this time. And he does have 1 slot on the back of his belt where he can store his extra accessory. Now, he does come with 1 Filmation exclusive accessory in the form of the Eternium crystal, which is very cool, actually. It's like molded in like a translucent, smoky blue plastic, and it's got like this piece at the end that is shaped kind of so his hands can hold on to it. He doesn't get like the best grip on it, as you can see, but he does hold it, and I like that. I do enjoy the Filmation accessories like this. I still think it would have been cool to get some more arm pieces, some more arm attachments, but this is pretty cool as is. All right, comparison time for Trapjaw. Same thing. Super 7 also did their version of Filmation Trapjaw in their Neo Vintage line, so it's like a 5.5 figure with vintage articulation, but it looks like the animation. And then we've got the Masters of the Universe Classics Club Grayskull one over here, the 7-inch scale one. So looking at all those side by side, you know what? I think Origins kind of nailed the head sculpt. Personally, I feel like that's the best of the bunch. They're very different looking. It's really odd looking at these 3 side by side and how different all 3 of them actually are from each other. All right, moving on to Cartoon Collection Stratos, again with the tape measure right at the 6-inch mark. I gotta be perfectly honest, I'm kind of surprised that Mattel decided to go for a Stratos again so soon after Mini Comic Stratos, or Naked Stratos as many of us like to call him, have spent so much time peg warming at Walmart. Like, he's almost like the figure that almost feels like it ended Origins because he's been seen for so long. But here he is again in his Filmation design, so it is a bit different. The head feels bigger. He's got just like, I don't know, more pronounced jawline on that Stratos from the animated series. I do love the bright colors on this one. Still very much looks like Stratos, but you know, he's got the smoother body, no feathery or furry body like we typically see, because he usually has like a beast, the Beastman body. So this is more like just the regular He-Man style body that we've got from Cartoon Collection there. So they stand a little bit more straight, you know, a little bit taller almost than the other Origins figures, but not too bad. They still fit in pretty decent. The wings on his arms are very similar in the fact that they are just right there over the wrists. So if you pop the hand out of socket, you can slide those right off. They just kind of spin around on the wrists. They're made of kind of a softer, more pliable plastic, but not as rubbery as like Teela's bodice was. And then he's got the jetpack there on his back, which is just kind of strapped on over his arms there. So it feels a little basic, but I mean, it captures the look of Stratos. This is exactly what you would expect from a Filmation version of Stratos. And he does come with an accessory in the form of the Staff of Avion, which is very cool to see. And this is also a really nicely done one because it's molded in this like metallic yellow plastic. And I don't know if that's coming across, but it's really got this great kind of pearlized shine to it that just makes it look very nice. And I love the little design sculpted on there, kind of like that skull with the horns. And then he can hold on to that, of course, with either one of his gripping hands. And that's him. That's Stratos, my friends. That's our Stratos from Filmation, which is pretty cool. Now, again, was got to do a comparison time just to kind of show him with what came before. Super 7 also did their own version of Filmation Stratos in their Neo Vintage line. They also gave him the Staff of Avion, as did Mattel when they did him in Club Grayskull for Masters of the Universe Classics. So now we can look at all of these guys standing side by side. I don't know, let me know your thoughts, guys. Which one of these do you think nailed the look more? Boy, that Super 7 one looks like he is oiled up and ready for the gym. Look how glossy he is. Those things were very shiny. The Stratos specifically is really, really glossy. But again, this is another interesting batch to look at side by side because they're all based on the same source material, but they're all sort of interpreting it slightly different from one another. And the Origins one here, the Cartoon Collection, is much lighter in contrast to the others, which are much darker. So that finally brings us over here to Mer-Man, which I've got to say, this is the one I was most excited for. And already just looking at him, I feel like he's one of the biggest wins in Cartoon Collection so far. Mer-Man is very interesting because he's had so many different looks just in the vintage line alone. We've already got a couple versions of him in Origins. We've got one based on his vintage action figure. We got the Lords of Power one, which is more based on the card back artwork from the vintage line. And in Filmation, he had an even different look. Look at that head sculpt, though. It is fantastic. I mean, they really did a wonderful job of capturing that kind of like blank stare on his face, the big fins on the side of his head. It's like I can just hear him talking, looking right at the figure. It is very cool. I love this one. He does, of course, utilize a lot of the same parts we've already seen. You know, same body and legs as He-Man, though he does have like more of this open hand over here. He's got like the clawed-like feet. So lots of parts reused, but we do have the new armor there as well that looks more like the Filmation version of Mer-Man's armor. Very cool. I love the colors on this one too. I think that sort of like teal blue looks really good on the skin tone there. The bright yellows and the orange of his trunks, all of that works very, very well. Now, he's got a couple of accessories, and these are new accessories for him, which I love to see. First of all, we've got a trident, which you can see is molded in this like metallic silver plastic, so it looks very, very good. He's got a gripping hand on the right, so we can hold onto the trident there. And then his second accessory is another one of those Filmation specific accessories in the form of this Pearl of Power. This thing is awesome because it's plastic. It's just like a plastic little orb, but it's like glittery, so it's very shiny and sparkly. I don't think my camera's really capturing it as cool as it looks, but it does have a very cool shiny pearl look to it. So his left hand is open, so it's meant to just kind of sit in his left hand just like this, but he does a really good job of holding on to it, and I love this. I think this might be my favorite figure so far in Cartoon Collection. I think he looks awesome. So let's go ahead and do one final Cartoon Collection comparison time. This is the Super 7 one over here from their Neo Vintage line. Again, more like vintage figure articulation. He's got a very different spear instead of this trident. Also, his colors seem pretty off on this one, I'm not gonna lie. And then we've got the MOTU Classics Club Grayskull version as well. This is another time where I personally feel like the Origins one seems to capture the likeness the best, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Which one do you think is the best out of the 3 Filmation Mer-Mans we've received so far? I really do think the Cartoon Collection is a lot of fun. I think there's something pretty cool about getting Filmation versions of these characters finally in the vintage scale and style. It's really funny when you think back at how much of the vintage toy line didn't match what we were seeing in the animation. So finally getting figures that look like the animation in a vintage figure styling, that's kind of cool when you think about it like that. I will say, I really hope that some of those Filmation exclusive characters are coming at some point soon. I mean, sure, I love getting Mer-Man and characters like this done in their Filmation looks, but Filmation has so many unique characters, it'd be nice to get some of those in this toy line. All right, so the latest Masters of the Universe Origins release that was exclusive to Mattel Creations is Extendar. Funny story about this one, I completely forgot that he was going on sale, and if you guys follow the Mattel Creations exclusives, you know that typically you need to try to be on the website when they go on sale because they usually sell out fairly quickly, usually within an hour or so. This time I just kind of suddenly realized, oh my god, I forgot about Extendar. I got on like a little over 2 hours later. He was still available. I was surprised. I ordered him. I don't know how much longer he lasted beyond that, but he lasted at least 2 hours. So I think that says something pretty interesting. It makes me wonder, did they make more of these? Was there less interest in Extendar? I don't know. Regardless, I'm excited that he's here. Let's check him out. Before we get to the figure itself, I wanted to point out that Extendar here does not come with his own mailer box that has an image of him on it like the Mattel Creations exclusives typically do. He just comes directly in this brown box that he was shipped in. Now, this was still inside of another shipping box. So I don't know why exactly he didn't get his own mailer with, like, you know, usually the mailer boxes have artwork of the character on them, and this one does not. So kind of makes me wonder if they're cutting those out. I'm not entirely sure. I just thought that was interesting and I wanted to point it out. But here is our Extendar, the heroic master of extension. I always thought that was a hilarious tagline. So this is really cool because while it is inspired by the vintage Masters of the Universe packaging, like the Mattel Creations exclusives have been lately, this is collector-friendly packaging. So that means you can just slide the card back out and you have easy access to the mini comic and the action figure within, which is always great too, because if you decide you want to open it up, mess with it, and then put it back in the box, it should go back in there fairly easily. Usually there is a rubber band or two that you got to cut, but otherwise you'll be able to put them back in there. You can display them in there. The artwork on the front is really cool. We got that added piece of artwork that usually is exclusive to just deluxe figures, but all these Mattel Creations ones have included that. I think that is very cool. You can see the way they posed Extendar in the box with his arms extended. I thought that was a really interesting choice. I don't know if that's just for room sake or to kind of demonstrate his feature, but kind of fun. Kind of cool to see him like that. And then you might have seen it just a second ago, but there is beautiful artwork on the back there. Very, very colorful. You can see the toy version of the Fright Zone in the back, which, man, are we even going to get that in Origins? It lost the fan vote. You can also see a Filmation version of the Fright Zone up here too. I kind of love that they're like putting those together. Very similar to like Filmation Snake Mountain and toy version Snake Mountain. I think these two could be merged together for one playset. I think that would be awesome. No idea if that's going to happen though. But I love that he's facing off with the Evil Horde. We got Leech, we got Hordak, we got Grizzlor, and we got Dragstore. Is this our first Dragstore sighting? Ooh, boy, hope that means he is somewhere down the road. But we're going to go ahead and open this guy up. Of course, worth mentioning that he does include his own mini comic, Terror of the Technomancer, which is very cool. And if you're not familiar with Extendar's backstory, he sort of is the result of some of that Hordak experimentation. You know, he loves doing weird experiments and creating things, and poor Extendar here got turned into this stretchy night guy. So pretty cool stuff. We got this mini comic. Let's go ahead and take a look at the action figure itself. All right, so here we go. Extendar outside of the packaging. And I went ahead and just pulled him out of the box exactly as he is with the arms already extended. Within the package, there were two other small little extender pieces, and then of course his weapon, which we will come back to. But I do think, just like right off the bat, let's talk about the extending feature with this. this since it's so in our faces with the way he's packaged. On the vintage action figure, all of the extending pieces actually pulled out. So like when we extended his arms, you would just pull him out from his forearms there. You would pull his legs down. You would extend his waist. You would extend his neck. And they opted this time to sort of go half and half with that. And what I mean by that is they gave us pegs for some of the extending features, but some of them work exactly like you remember them. For example, the head up here still extends just by pulling the neck upwards. And I do want to point this out right away. The peace signs on the back of his neck, which is amazing. That was on the vintage figure. I don't know why, but it was there. So I'm glad to see that they included that here. It's like part of Extendar. We got to have that peace sign there. It's also really interesting that the head is still ball jointed at the top of that. So you can see it still articulates exactly like you would expect and should, and it does, pop right off of that. Look at that. So you just got the joint up there. So it still incorporates the normal ball joint with the removable head, but they added this cool little neck extending feature there to sort of make it like the vintage figure. Let's pop that head back on. Boom, pop that neck up there. Now with the body, it also works just like the vintage toy. So look at that. We can just pull it at the waist. Boom, it pops up. Now, still has a swivel, which is very cool. So we can still turn it side to side. But this part is non-removable. So he's not removable at the waist here. It doesn't seem like most of the figures are. Actually, maybe it is. I am actually very afraid. I don't want to break that. I don't know. It feels like it's not meant to come off. I don't know. You guys can tell me if you were able to remove it. Honestly, this feels like it's going to break if I try to pull that off. So I don't want to force it any more than that. But the legs, the way we did the legs is with those pieces. Now, I assume the reason that the legs and the arms don't have the pull-out things is because they are still articulated at the knees and the elbows. We would not be able to have elbow articulation if this had to go all the way up his arm when we pushed his hand in. And same with the knee. You wouldn't be able to bend his knee if we shoved that piece up into the leg. So if we want to fully extend this guy, we're going to take those extra little connectors that we got out of the package, and you can see that they'll connect between the boot and his leg. And just like that, we have a fully extended Extendar, which is pretty cool. And if I bring in the tape measure, you can see that he is now right at 8 inches tall. So he went from being a 5.5 incher to an 8 incher with all of the extending parts there. It is pretty cool. And I guess just to bring this up right now, just like on the vintage toy, he's got this red shield. It looks very similar to the vintage, and it too has a extending feature of sorts, more just like opening up. So you can open up the shield. It turns into this big triangle shield, just, you know, kind of gives it a bigger space. Look, the peace sign's on there too, which is very cool. So this is just molded in like a red plastic. There's no extra paint detail or anything like that. And it looks like that's going to work best on his left hand because it's got a clip to go around his wrist, but then it also has a handle in here. There we go, just like that, so we can hold on to it. And that is how we basically complete the look of our fully extended Extendar. So we're fully turning this guy back to normal now, just so we can kind of look him over and look at all the other details. So just for those arms, you can just pull those right off of there, and then you can attach the gloves to the forearms like you typically would. And we'll push that head back down. And now we've got just Extendar at his normal size in his big, bulky knight armor. I love this guy. You know, I always liked the vintage one a lot. I thought he was such a unique looking figure. And he's big and bulky with this cool knight armor with like the face mask that totally covers the face. And one of the things I loved about the vintage figure was like how he had this very cool pearlescent shine to him. And they definitely did a pretty good job of capturing that on this new version. He's kind of got those marbleized swirls in there, which the vintage one also had. I feel like maybe the vintage one is still a little bit more pearlescent than this, maybe a little shinier in that aspect, but this is pretty good. I think this has got a really neat pearlescent kind of glaze to it. Those marbleized swirls in the plastic on the gold and the silver all the way around. Got that striking red belt on there. I think he's a very cool looking character. I always thought that. He's one of the, I guess, one of the weirdos from Masters of the Universe, but man, the weirdos are what make Masters of the Universe great. And as I was kind of showing you, like, the articulation still functions like you would expect for the most part, because you can even still swivel that waist and everything. That head is on a ball joint. I love that kind of like robotic gold look to his face underneath the face mask there. Just all in all, this is a very cool looking character. He's one of those ones that I think people forget about a lot. He doesn't seem to get a whole lot of love, so I'm just so happy to see him in the Origins line. All right, guys, it's comparison time. So this over here on the right is the vintage Extendar action figure. And when you look at him standing alongside the new one, you can see there's so many similarities. I mean, they did a pretty great job of updating him. Maybe you can see what I was talking about with the silver, especially how it's just a little bit more pearlized. But also one of the things with Extendar is he always had sort of that oxidation problem where sometimes the gold and sometimes his legs would even kind of get like a greenish tint to them. Luckily, my vintage one's in pretty good shape there. And hopefully that's not something we'll have to worry about with the newer one here, just because the gold is so much different on this. But they look so similar side by side. Now, of course, the vintage one didn't have the extra articulation in the knees and everything, and this is how his extending feature worked. You just pulled all of those parts out. You can still stretch them at the body, and of course, there's the face. There's the peace sign on the vintage one that I was telling you about. And we've got to get an extended comparison time as well. Very cool, very similar. This one, the new one is great because the added articulation actually is helpful for like posing him and making him look just a little bit more menacing when he's in his extended form. I think it's pretty cool. This is something else we got to go ahead and All right, this is something else we got to go ahead and do. Let me move these guys over just a little bit because we got to make some room for the Masters of the Universe Classics version of Extendar, which somehow feels small. So with Masters of the Universe Classics, all of the extending pieces are from attachments, and I don't have the legs or the midsection attachments on right now. They're in a bin somewhere. This is the way I had him displayed on the shelf, but still wanted to bring him in here to show him side by side. Honestly, I feel like the Origins one does a really good job of updating the vintage one. I didn't like how unshiny the Classics one felt. It felt a little too subdued compared to this marbleized pearlescent look of the vintage one, but still very interesting looking at these side by side. These are the only 3 Extendar figures we've ever received. There you go, my friends. Another batch of Masters of the Universe figures reviewed here on the channel. Thank you all so much for joining me here yet again. I hope you guys are enjoying the channel and all of these different toy reviews. I mentioned that I've got like so many other MOTU figures I need to look at. I got a whole new wave of Turtles of Grayskull. I got new Masterverse stuff I want to look at, but I feel like I want to dabble in some other toy lines too. There's some other new stuff coming out, so I don't know. Feel free to let me know what you guys think. Should I just keep chugging along with MOTU every weekend, or should we insert some other things in to mix it up as well? It's one of those things where I'm always still wondering, like, does it matter if I review something that's not like brand new anymore? Like, I don't know. Things are so weird and different now that sometimes it feels like it doesn't matter, but sometimes I just want to talk about this stuff because I like it. So, I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time.